how you can do stop motion video animation for dummies. Stop motion videos is simply just the same technique you will apply for time lapse. Now, the difference being that with time lapse, I don't have control over all the natural things that happen out there. Let's say, for instance, I want to do a time lapse of a busy or a high traffic street. I don't have control over the activities of that particular street. I don't have control of the weather, clouds moving up and down. I don't have control of the traffic. I don't have control of people around. That is time lapse. But with stop motion, I have full control of what moves around. In this case, my objects and my subjects. I have control of the lighting. I don't have control of the lighting with nature. That is where there is contrast. So we're basically just taking a bunch of photos and stitching them together in post-production. This is basically the way I will approach it. I want you to understand that there is no right or wrong way in this case. The way another person will approach it will be different from the way I'll approach it. But one thing I can let you know for sure is that this is very beginners friendly, hence the title, not to insult you. It's just to also rank better in the search engine for SEO sake. That story for another day. So basically, let's get on with this thing and let me show you exactly how I intend to achieve it. This is not me teaching you how to do it. This is letting you know how I do it. Let's get into it. Hey, Merry Christmas. Sam here. Welcome to my world of creativity. I pay attention to what's happening in the creative world. So once in a while, I talk about camera gear. I talk about production, post-production, and videography. So if that sounds interesting to you or something that you can benefit from, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell notification so that whenever I do upload new content, you will be notified. And also is another way of, just telling the YouTube algorithm that I am providing good value. On a more serious note, I sincerely hope that you find value here on this channel. Let us get into what brought us here today. I am going to be taking you through how to create stop motion animation videos for your product and services. This is a good way to actually brand your product or service. So I'm going to take you step by step. This is a fairly simple process. But that said, I'll advise you to stick around to the end of this particular video, because you miss anything in between, chances are that it just might throw you into some confusion on how to achieve this. So I would hate for you to be confused at any point. And if for any reason you have any problems or challenges or difficulties, comments in the section beneath this video. I will do my best to respond to you as soon as possible. So number one, I will show you my setup first, because setup is very key. How you set your light, how you position your set, how you position your camera, and then what you use for your shoot or your shutter. Let me quickly walk you through my little setup here. As you can see right here, I have the camera here. I have a Canon 7D, an old camera. So the reason I'm bothering to talk about that is because you don't need any fancy thing. You can use an old camera. A smartphone will actually do this. One key thing about this is that you want to make sure once you mount that camera, it's not going to shift from its position. It has to remain at a particular position where you kept the camera, or else it's going to look shaky and it's not going to be consistent. So you want to have the camera mounted in one place. Okay, so this is my setup for camera. Make sure it's right above the set. where you're going to be doing the display. This is what I have for the backdrop. I'm sure you probably have it in your studio if you are a photographer, but if you don't have this kind of screen to bounce light or light reflector, if you don't have this, you can actually use any good looking surface. At the end of the day, you just want a plain surface where your product can be well showcased. Whatever it is you are showcasing should stand out from the background, so that's what I'm using for that. If you come over here, I have this continuous light here. You also don't need any fancy light. Now, one thing about lighting, I won't depend on natural light because I don't have control over natural light. For some people, it might be the look that they are going for, because natural light will fluctuate from time to time in the course of your shooting. So I would rather not depend on natural light because I don't have control over it. So you use continuous light. I have this tube light here. It's going to just focus on the thing. And then again, I also won't use speed light. There's really no hard and fast rule about this whole thing, but some other people will want another kind of creativity around that, then they would want to use speed light. And then there's one here and then there's one there. I did that just so I can cancel shadow. Then of course, another thing you need to do is to diffuse the light so that you don't pour harsh light on your subject. Okay, so with that being said, then we can go ahead and do whatever I want to do. And then before I go further, make sure there is contrast between your backdrop and your subject. As you can see on here, I have white board. What I am going to be using for this demonstration is a shirt. I have a shirt. I have a pair of Adidas sneakers. So I have the camera tethered to the computer because it doesn't have Bluetooth. Now you can do whatever you want to do. You can get a remote for your camera. So, but I am tethering this so that I can use the computer as a shutter. I'm using the utility software on that computer. So I will just be clicking on there because you don't want to go on the camera to click, because if you do that, that means every time you go to click, you're going to be shaking the camera. And this whole thing is simple. I'm just taking my time to explain to you so that you understand how it works. Ordinarily, I would have far gone into the process that it takes for me to do this. Okay, so it's going to be fun. Don't get scared of this. It's really simple. So let's get started. We're going to be applying little movement to our subject here. So what that means is that every little move we make, we take a picture, because you're basically just taking still pictures. So the reason why I am moving it to Photoshop first is because I am shooting raw. But I am shooting raw, and then I am going to apply a log file called C-log for Canon. And then I want to be able to do an extensive color grading to the images, or to the images before I pass them onto Premiere Pro. So Photoshop helps me convert the raw files that cannot be previewed in Premiere Pro in Photoshop. So once I finish editing them or color grading them in Photoshop, then I'll convert them to JPEG. Then I can do the finishing in Premiere Pro. So that's the reason why I'm doing that. But if you shoot in JPEG like some people do, you would have cut off the aspect that you would need Photoshop for this whole thing. So let's get started. So as you can see, so every little move I make, I take a picture. So that is what add the motion to it by the time I stitch it all together. the more moves you make and the more pictures you take, the more motion you apply to the end result of your video. So right now I'll begin to bring in the shoes, applying just little movements at a time, okay? So as you can see, this is just a very simple version of that particular video. You know, it's as simple as that. You can actually take it to another level by introducing all kinds of elements into your set, you know. So you can apply more elements to have more movements, you know. At the same time, you can actually begin to move all these different subjects at the same time. So let's say we have the shirt, we have the sneakers, then we probably have maybe the tie, the pair of pants, you know. We can decide to move everything into stage or into the set at the same time without having to do it one after the other, because it all just depends on what you want to achieve with your motion. Now I'm through with the photos, so we are headed for the next segment, and this is the most fun aspect of this whole thing. So let's get started. Let's go. And then second, we'll move to post-production. Post-production is basically putting everything together in a sequence that helps you stitch all the photos together, and that is what creates the motion. So basically this is what I am doing right now. Okay, here we are in Photoshop, in my computer rather. So I'm just going to quickly open Photoshop so that we get started. You can actually avoid using Photoshop if you shoot in JPEG, right? But for me, this is the approach I will take. The reason I'm going through this is because Premiere Pro, which is the software that I will use to stick the pictures together, does not accept raw picture files. So that means I have to bring them through Photoshop. So what I'm going to do, plus the fact that it was shot in flat profile, so that I can color grade it a little bit and boost the colors, you know, if you know what I mean. Then I'll export to JPEG, which is what Adobe Premiere Pro will accept for me to edit the photos and achieve the effect. Since Photoshop is open here, I will just go to open, I'll go ahead and locate my images in the place where I store them. So in this case, I store them in Total Project. Wherever you store yours, just make sure you can find them. Right here, stop motion animation photos. So we double click that. Basically, you will click the first picture here, or Control A, so that it will select all of it. Then you just simply click OK. So automatically Photoshop usually will go through Camera Raw, you know. So Camera Raw just, I mean, if you're familiar with Photoshop, you know how Photoshop works. There are just two steps to this process. You know, you take your pictures and then go straight to whatever software that you would use, like Premiere Pro, to stick the pictures together. But because of how I'm going about it, I am going through Photoshop first. So I will come on here and work on this picture a little bit, you know, so that I give it contrast. As you can see, the pictures are not already looking very contrasty, you know, as opposed to what it was looking when I first uploaded them, you know, or when I first took them. So you can see the colors are very sharp and contrasty. Color correction, like I said, I'm not going to do anything crazy. So you're going to press Control A, Command A for Mac, Control A for Windows. So that will select all the other images beneath this particular one that I just color corrected, however you want to call it. So you right click on one of the images and apply sync settings. What that will do is that it's going to apply the color settings to the rest of the images. So you click OK and you're going to wait for it to apply that. Once it has applied it, you click Save Images down here. So that will open here. Now this is the important part of this process, the main reason why I actually brought all the images to Photoshop in the first place. If you are going to shoot in JPEG, like I said before, you don't need to use Photoshop. You're just going to import all your images directly to Premiere Pro and stitch the images together. But in this case, I'm just going to have them save in JPEG so that I can view them or preview them in post-production within Adobe Premiere Pro. So make sure it's in JPEG, then come down here and everything is okay. Everything is fine the way I am looking at it. The file quality, I am picking 12. This is the location where I'm going to save it. You can change the location if you want. I'm just going to change the location and be sure that I put it on the right file so that I will not be all over the place looking for it, because organization is very key in this case. I will choose a different file so that I will have them saved separately, because I don't want them to be mixed up with other files. So I'll go to new and create a new folder. One thing with this thing is that you don't want to mix them up with other files, because you want the number in which the image were taken to remain the same in that sequence, so that you don't alter it, because if you alter it, it's going to pose a problem for you in post-production. So I'm just going to call it stop motion editor. So I'll just hit save. So we'll wait for it to just save, and once it's done saving, then we'll continue. Now that it has finished saving, the next step will be to move over to Premiere Pro. So I'll just close up my window here. So, and you won't need to go beyond here into Photoshop, because Camera Raw just helps you manage all your files. And if you intend to do in-depth color grading for your images in Photoshop, don't get past, people have their ways of doing it, but this is the simplest way that I found for me to doing this, because it helps me manage my images or my files accurately and in a more seamless way without having to burden my system so much. Because imagine having to open this right now in the proper work platform of the Photoshop. It's going to take a long time to process this whole thing. So that said, let's shut this down. I'm going to shut down Photoshop. Shut down Photoshop. Let's power up Premiere Pro. So if this is the first time you're using Premiere Pro, once Premiere Pro powers up, then we will create a project. So Premiere Pro is on. I'll just go and I'll click on new project. There's really nothing much here, so I'll just name it stop motion, and we'll come to sequence here. Now let's go to file. I'll come to new, come to sequence, click on sequence. Now we're using ARRI here. Let's use the default 30 frames per second. I shot, so I'll just pick that right here, and everything here pretty much is applicable to what I want to do with this. So once you're here, let's name it, make sure you name your file. I'll call it stop motion edit. So once you're sure you have your settings correct, then you click OK. So that will begin the workflow. So what we're going to do right now is to go to import. So once you are in import, first and foremost, let's look for the file. So here we have the files here. So as you can see, all the pictures are in there. Now make sure that you have the pictures in the order you took them, because if you don't, if you mess it up, it's going to affect the final look of the video. So you want to ensure that they are in the sequence that you took them, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, and so on and so forth. Pick the first, check this, and open. So that actually will import all the images as one, as one footage. So we just take it and drag it onto the timeline. Keep existing sequence. Okay, so let's zoom in here. So here we have it. Now, once you import it, you're going to notice black bars here. Depending on your settings in your camera, some people will shoot this in photo mode, in still picture mode, but I shot my images in video mode, so I just did that for simplicity. When you shoot in the still picture mode, you actually have crispier pictures. Your pictures are clearer and then they are larger in size. So even though it will not be in the format of video, you can always scale it up and size up the frame, as you can see right here. So there are black bars, but that shouldn't be a problem. So what we can do is just to come to this portion here and simply scale it up so that it covers the frame properly. Once that covers, do what's best for you anyway. So I can keep adjusting till I get exactly what I want. So you can actually go crazy with this after you do what you're doing, and it's totally fine. Just do what you have to do. I mean, I really don't care that my knee is showing right there, so this is basically the process it takes. Now I'll have to render it out for you to see the result, because my system is really slow, and as you can see, it's choppy. It won't give me a smooth play. So basically this is how it works. As you can see, I haven't even rendered it. Once I render it, now with this footage, I can either slow it down or speed it up a little bit. If I want to slow it down, I simply come here and click on duration, and then I hit 80. As you can see, the clip is gotten longer, so I can make it slower. Considering the fact that I'm not an island of knowledge, I'd like to hear from you. So if you would have a different approach to how I have approached this today, please leave your thoughts in the comments. Okay, so another thing again is, if you're into creativity or you have a product or service you want to create this kind of video for, and you want my help, I would like you to reach out to me. If for any reason your schedule will not allow you to do this, or maybe you just don't have the time to do this, I'd encourage you to reach out to me and let's talk about it one-on-one. Okay, it's a Sam. And until another video, I am signing out. Peace.